Hey, Tatya. Got some other folks jumping in here too. We've got Brett. Hey, Brett. We've got, looks like Matko's about to jump in here. And we should have some other people hopping in too as we get started here. Brett, good to see you.
Hey man.
Appreciate you joining on this holiday week.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to get
Um,
into this. The goal is to get our hands dirty like we do every week in the program, Brett. You'll be familiar with this. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen, and we won't waste any time. Let's see here. I've got a little different setup today. Can you see my screen okay? Is that legible? Cool. Okay.
yep. Little small, but legible.
Okay. One thing I'm going to try here. Let's see. Okay. If you want to pin my view, that might help too. It makes it bigger.
Right.
Anyway, okay. So today we're going to talk about some common mistakes and then talk about the way to reliably 10x our workflows. If you're not familiar with the AI skills operating system, that is our methodology for basically packaging your expertise without having to be technical yourself, but being able to package up what you do so that you can use it for AI agents and plug it in different ways. So that's what we're going to talk about today. If you're non-technical, that's great. You're in the right place. I think there's plenty of deep stuff out there around deep AI and getting your hands dirty as a technical person. And so today I want to focus on how to do this as a non-technical. So if you've tried ChatGPT too, before we get into that, I'd love to know what you've tried. Maybe you've tried ChatGPTs or custom GPTs. Maybe you've done some vibe coding. Brett, I know you've built some interesting things with what I would classify as vibe coding. Maybe some people have tried N8N. I'm curious, maybe before we get into it, where you're at. Would you put yourself maybe just in the curious camp where you're still just figuring out what are the best tools to use? What can it do for me? Would you call yourself capable? You're past Chat GPT, maybe you're not, you're past custom GPTs, you're more advanced. And then if there's any experts here right now, I'd love to know that too. Christopher, I know you've been doing a lot of cool things too. So I'd love to know like where are you at, if you don't mind putting into the chat here. What would you classify yourself as? And maybe this is changing week over week. So if you've attended before, like I know some of you have, maybe this is a higher number than before, which is would be great as well. Cool. Brett's capable. All right, let's go. Let's get that to advanced and expert. We're on the way there. Cool. Yeah, perplexity is great too. Thanks for sharing, Tatya. Capable. Okay, this is great. So I think we're all in this similar camp here, which is perfect. And the cool thing is it doesn't matter where you are in this kind of spectrum of expertise. This system will work if you're just curious and just getting started, but it also, I use this as an engineer, and a lot of people on the team use this who are deeply technical as well. It's going to work no matter where you are. So the first mistake I see a lot of people doing is just a spaghetti mess of tools. Like, here's my bookmark for this tool, here's what I use for that thing, and just having a million bookmarks and just a bunch of links and then these cobbled together broken workflows of like copying and pasting between all these different systems and windows. And you forget, oh, do I put it here? Oh, I forgot to do that first. It just becomes a mess. And so I think then you end up with just like disappointing outputs. And that just leaves you more skeptical than ever before. The second big mistake I'm seeing a lot of people make is trying to buy SaaS solutions. And what I mean by that would be like, again, N8N, Make, Zapier has some things. A lot of these tools can get, first of all, they can get really expensive and they're just not like consistent with real world use cases. They try to be so flexible. And even the ones that are like specific for different verticals, like healthcare or fintech or customer service, even those, once they hit like the reality of business, almost everyone gets disappointed with it. And I don't know if you've seen in the news, there's been multiple companies that have walked back their ambitions because they've seen these agents, these customer service agents, not performing very well, as just one of the examples. So I think the sort of silver bullet promise of these SaaS tools that will just do it for you and build workflows and agents for you is just a pipe dream, and I've yet to see it work out well. The third mistake is like trying to build your own custom stuff, right? Which is typically called vibe coding. I think if you are moderately technical, that's not necessarily a bad path to go down. But unless you're trying to be more technical and trying to be really a hands-on engineer on some level, it's a bad idea just to create a bunch of custom software because someone's going to have to maintain it. At some point, it will grow beyond, the complexity will grow beyond what you're capable of. And for a lot of companies, this is really key, is it creates a lot of security issues, a lot of surface area now that has to be secured. So just think if everybody in the company is building their own software, what does the security team need to be aware of? What does the IT team need to be aware of now to secure all that new surface area? So I think it's a mistake to just start building more and more custom software unless you want to be technical or it's for your own projects. But in a business setting, it's really quite risky. And I'd say like the biggest mistake, though, the overall mistake is actually focusing on intelligence. People are like saying, "Oh, did you hear about the new model that just came out? 4.4.5 and it's 2% better than the last one." And everyone gets excited, right? It's like the hype cycle. And actually, that actually doesn't make it the biggest difference. It's like we're just getting smarter and smarter geniuses that don't have any experience. And so if you think about it, I like this analogy of who would you rather have do your taxes? The 300 IQ math genius who can explain the first principle of everything and over time learn tax code, no problem. Or do you want the 20-year tax veteran that knows all the sharp edges and the where all the problems are and has the scars because they've been through it? That experience you get on day one, right? So I'd much rather have that tax pro, the experience, the expertise, not the raw intelligence. So I think everyone's optimizing for intelligence, but really they're forgetting the most important part, which is actually expertise and like know-how, right? These models are trained on a lot of information, but it's just generic stuff. And that's why a lot of times when you use ChatGPT or something else without the right prompting and context and expertise put in, it's just not a great output. So what do we do instead if we know this is the problem? The answer is to package up your expertise as reusable skills that both humans and AI agents can use. And so if you think about this visual, and let me try to blow that up a little bit. I know it's a little bit. There we go. Let's see if that makes it a little bit easier to see. If we think about the old way, it's like you cram in a bunch of documents and then over months you train the AI over a long period of time. That's like the old way, what people are used to. But the new way is to take all that training and expertise and actually put it into a skill, like codifying, encoding the expertise, the domain knowledge. And then that's something you can hand to an agent that knows what to do with it immediately on day one. So there's no training period. You now have portable expertise, portable domain knowledge that you can move to whatever the best agent is at the time. And this is important because a lot of people are going all in on just one particular ecosystem or tool. And the problem is these tools are changing. The best in class changes like every day sometimes. It's so neck and neck. So you want portability. And so what the agent skills spec and this operating system give you is that portability. So what exactly is an agent skill? It sounds a little technical, but it's really just a folder. Just think of it as a folder and it just contains all the know-how, right? Of your domain expertise, maybe a subject matter expert on your team, a certain process logic for a flow or a process that happens in a business. And it's just a set of those instructions, examples of what good looks like. The same stuff you would delegate to a human, right? If you hired someone, you'd be like, here's the project, right? Here's what needs to happen. Here's what good looks like. Here's what we're expecting. Da, da, da. It's the same idea with the skill. You're able to capture basically an ability, a capability. So the cool thing about this is then it's super compatible with anything. It's familiar. It's just text files. It's just plain English. There's no code involved. And anyone can create them, right? This could be these SOPs and checklists, right? This is ultimately what goes in the skill that you can then hand to an agent. So we can have these skill stacks for all functions of the business: finance, accounting, recruiting, legal, products, operations, go to market. It doesn't matter what the function is. All those functions have expertise and processes and workflows. Those can be codified as skills that can then be automated and improved through these agents. So you want to think about it as this stack, right? So if you think about on the left here, we've got the core foundational skills. These would be just like how to work with Word documents, right? What should be the format of a Word document, or how to work with other tools, just basic fundamental skills of like how to use word processing things, literally anything that is a fundamental skill. The middle layer would be a skills that integrate with third-party systems. So think CRMs or analytics systems or data warehouses. That would be this middle layer of third-party skills. And all the companies now are starting to build these skills and MCP servers to be able to integrate with agents. And so the good news is like everyone's moving towards this standard. Anthropic created the standard, OpenAI has adopted it, and now the whole rest of the industry is going to be doing it too and following. So that's the middle layer. And then the outer layer, this would be like the good stuff from the enterprise, like the value, the secret sauce that you have, the valuable things that no one else knows how to do, or that's ultimately the secret sauce, the playbooks of what value you add to the market or whatever we're talking about here. So those are really where the biggest value is, right? Because I think we're going to openly share the foundational skills like how to update a PowerPoint presentation, right? That would be a foundational skill. You can get those everywhere online, they're all over. The middle layer of skills, those are that ecosystem is getting built out more and more. So really then it becomes a game of how do we codify and encode all the tribal knowledge, the tacit knowledge that's in everyone's heads into these like enterprise valuable skills. And if you know anything about selling a company, the companies that are worth the most and sell for the most have really good documentation. They have standard operating procedures, right? Everything is very documented. There's very little dependency on one person or team. And this is like that on steroids. So it actually builds enterprise value. When a company has these skills documented, it makes it easier to sell the company for more, hire, defend against people leaving the company, right? Because you have it all codified as a skill. So there's so many benefits to this. And we've essentially converted everything. We used to be making that first mistake of having a bunch of GPTs and a bunch of NAN workflows and a whole bunch of just random stuff. And now we're all in on just this idea. And the cool thing is it can be used by technical people too. I know we're focused on non-technical, but these skills can be used by the engineering team. So if you have a branding guidelines, you can hand that skill to the developing team and they can actually make sure that the whole design exactly matches the exact same branding guidelines as the business development sales decks, for example. And a lot of that stuff gets lost in translation and then done wrong in practice when done manually. Adherence to standard is a huge benefit of this. Brett, did you have something you wanted to add to that or ask?
Yeah, thanks, Todd. What would be, I never made a GPT myself, but I
Mhm.
know it's essentially isolating a cylinder of knowledge for specialized give and take with ChatGPT. How's
Yeah.
that different than a skill?
It's really just better, like it's a half-assed version of skill, to be honest.
Right.
Basically, it was like ChatGPT's first attempt at trying to create custom, something you don't have to preload every time from scratch with a whole bunch of stuff. Or I should say it is preloaded as opposed to having to dump in all the documents, all the
I see.
context from previous chats into a chat GPT from scratch. It's basically, it was their attempt at that. But then Anthropic, and not everybody knows this, but Anthropic, the founding team left OpenAI to start Anthropic. So it's like some of the best engineers at OpenAI, they like, we want to do things differently. We're going to start our own company. And so they had their own version of this, which is skills. And in my mind, it's way more portable. Like this is going to actually make enterprise adopt, and I think academia adopt AI because it's accessible, it's almost stupidly simple how easy it works. And the issue is that it's hard for companies to monetize, and that's why they create fancy SaaS and all kinds of other misdirection solutions that are not nearly as good as just this. This is becoming a protocol like a standard HTML, right? Or email. So that's the difference is it's like if you haven't made a chat GPT, a custom GPT, don't bother, go down this path. And if you have those, I would consider like we've migrated them all. As soon as this we proved this out, saw it working. It became a top priority to take all of our anything AI related and convert it to skills.
It sounds like a GPT is not overly different than just opening a folder of preloaded materials in like a cursor or an IDE, but the skill takes those materials and does what you want to do with them.
Yeah, it's packaged up and it's shareable. And I think with the custom GPT, it's hard to change. You have to you can't change the documents inside it easily. If you haven't used it, it's hard to appreciate how much it frankly sucks compared to
Yeah, it's
Claude
evolved so
skills.
much
And
already.
so it's like I
Gotcha.
wouldn't even bother learning about it, to be
Yeah,
honest. I've gone down that path and we used to have we had probably 40 some odd custom GPTs.
right.
So like we went deep on it. And then once this came out like 8 weeks ago, it's still quite new, but we've been using it since the day it came out and it's changed everything. So like we're not even having to hire, we changed our hiring plans because of this for 2026. Like it's that different. Whereas we just needed people to operate the GPTs. That was actually a huge time suck. Just using them, copy, paste. We don't even need that anymore because we can have the workflows describing what needs to be done in Claude, and it's like a one shot.
And you're saying, Todd, that like the middle skills that you're pointing to in your slide,
Yep.
those are the ones that Anthropic's like churning out already. It's like, hey, throw this thing that we just talked about on a 2 point PowerPoint slide for me. They're like, so
Yeah.
many people have asked that we create a
Yes.
skill that does that nicely.
Yeah. And I would actually put that more under the core skills, the foundational
I
skills.
see.
I'd say it's actually every other company. If a company has an API, the new thing will be, do you have a skill or an MCP server? If you don't, so all the other companies are creating their own third-party skill for you to then use to interact with their service. That's what that middle layer looks like.
I see.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
then it's if you want to build something, if you want to take your secret sauce and actually build a workflow, that's where the company specific expertise or
gotcha.
person specific comes in. Cool. How is this landing? Okay, Tachi, I see your question. The great thing is that skills have first class support in Claude. They just got added to OpenAI. So they're in the process of having first class support. That means all the others are going to start doing it too. The ones that don't have first class support, like Gemini or anything else, the cool thing is it's just text. You can just copy and paste. All it is a very robust prompt. And so you can basically take your skills, load in any additional resources, paste in the skill, and you just have to do it more manually. And the advantage of Claude is going to automate and piece together into full workflows to save you the copy and pasting. And there's some other benefits too with it being first class support. But if you invest in this work, you can still use it on any other AI tool. But having done this, like this is all we do all day long, basically, is test these tools and see what works best and then teach that out. Like we only use Claude and Gemini now. Gemini in very limited cases. Like Claude is for professional work, Claude is really best in class right now. They're just not great at marketing, so nobody knows. So that's part of why I'm doing this for my own reasons, though, because I feel like this is a secret that more people need to know. And it's going to really affect a lot of things once it gets more adopted. So this is the chance to get ahead of it and take advantage of it in the ways that you can. Great question, Tatya. Thank you. Anything else before I move on to the next bit? Cool. Has anyone else tried skills, by the way? Like I know Brett has because he's already in our program, but Bob, I see you nodding your head. Cool. Awesome. Okay, let's go on to the next one here. So this is what I already said this a little bit, but essentially instead of having siloed tools, like you shouldn't need like the finance AI, you shouldn't need marketing over here, sales over there. You actually just have one universal agent, which is Claude, and then can use any of the skills. And so all these skills can be shared amongst any function in the business. And it really doesn't matter what we're talking about here, which function. This is truly general purpose for whatever you need to do. If you have documentation, if there's know-how, if you have people doing things, it can be packaged up in a skill So then there's thorough documentation. And the other nice thing about this approach is you don't have to go all or nothing. You can have humans manually use the skills, and then you can choose to piece them together. And we're going to look at some examples here in a bit to make that clear what that means. But there's a lot of flexibility here. I've yet to find a downside. That's the incredible thing. The only downside is this has to be taught and people have to be made aware of. Like it is truly a great solution. So let's look at an example of a workflow. We had someone on a previous session who shared like she was a CFO and she's been spending all this time just manually reading invoices, categorizing them, putting them into QuickBooks, right? 6 different companies. This was eating up a ton of time. So this is a great use case as just one example where you can have an email triage skill that reads emails, identifies invoices as they come in, and then an invoice extraction skill. You'd separate those because you might have an email triage skill that serves another purpose in a different workflow. But in this case, we're going to extract the data with the invoice extraction skill right after triaging it to know that it's an invoice. And then the cool thing is QuickBooks has an integration called an MCP server that you can then automatically enter in the data into QuickBooks, all automatically without doing the manual data entry. So there's not going to be any mistakes and you don't have to spend the time. And so if you think if she was spending hours doing this one workflow, depending on like the number of invoices per email, how big those invoices are, this is going to take somewhere between 1 to, let's say, 5 minutes. And so she's not having to do any work. That's just time on the clock that's running. So she could spin up 5 of these. And the cool thing is it can be event driven too. So as emails come in, they get classified, entered in. Now you start to see how your roles and responsibilities can get automated away. So then now if that grunt work, if that delivery is taken care of, what can she go do? She can go find bigger and better clients. She can go sit on the beach. She can do whatever she wants to do. But that's the point, is having the options by using this kind of thing. So let's look at some other use cases. And then I want to actually get into planning out some of our own workflows and skills here today. The goal is not to just show you about this, but let's actually get started. So content creation, that's a common one. You might imagine there's a set of skills for content creation, and we actually have this where there's multiple phases, right? Research and ideation, drafting, editing it into the final voice, right? And then repurposing it into other formats. You might want to take an email, turn that into a blog post, chop it up for social. There might be multiple formats that you want to do that in. So you can do that in one workflow with a set of skills in Claude for content creation. We do this all the time. And I used to create all my content by hand from scratch. It was a lot of time. I started to get pretty good at copywriting and I was really happy with where I was at. But once we started to switch to this system, it performs so much better than any of the content that I created. And at first I was a little kind of hurt by that. I was a little salty. I was like, whoa, this is better than mine. But I was like, at the end of the day, I care about performance. Basically taking the best content I had ever done, and then putting the intelligence, the raw intelligence that Claude has, created something better than general intelligence would have created and something better than I could have created with my own expertise on its own. So think about just like adding extra intelligence to the expertise you already have. It's a really cool way to think about it. So another use case would be product R&D, and we have a workflow for creating new product ideas. It's for validation to see, is this a venture that's worth like investing in and backing and maybe developing further, or a new product line that might be in an existing client's business. But it all starts with research. And so we've got one skill that goes out and does a ton of market research, literally crawling like over 100 sources for specific pain point language. If you haven't already got our AI prompt library, that is actually in there. It was originally just a prompt that we then evolved into a skill, but that's in there. It's an incredible prompt. And so we start there. So that way, all of our products are data driven from what people actually want and say, not just purely ideas that we have as a vision. So that's the research phase. Then we move into prototype and we say, what could the user experience look like before we invest in building it out for real? It creates some quick prototypes that we can put in front of potential users to get real feedback. And then it goes into the testing. And this is where we're actually integrating those things together and ultimately deploying. And so we've got all the like the full life cycle of development in this one workflow. The third thing here is around operational analytics. And so we use this extensively to take a look at all of our product analytics to say what's going on, where are the problems, what should we do next? It's like the questions you've always wanted to ask, but they're too high level to be able to give to someone like an analyst on your team, or you just don't know how to go about answering the question. And so it's really cool because then it goes through all the data collection. It does all kinds of processing across the various sources, our product analytics, our database, our CRM, does an analysis, and then gives us some insights and recommendations for next steps. These are just like three examples of what we're using them in our own business. And then some of the clients that we work with and build out workflows for it, the use cases go so far and broad. But I wanted to start with these three as very real examples. And so what I'd like to do now is give you just a quick tour, and then we can get into actually building our own first workflow. Let me just pull up Claude. So I actually recommend and we like to use Claude Desktop, but I'm going to show you in the web browser today just for simplicity. The desktop version gives you additional connections and functionality that you don't get in the web. So I would suggest that. If you haven't already done, this is very important. Go to settings after you've signed up, go to privacy, and you want to make sure that this is turned off. Help improve. Let me just blow that up so it's even bigger. Help improve Claude. Turn that off. You don't want them to take your IP and your sensitive information and skills and use it for their own purposes. So always turn that off first. And now you know you're safe. Anything you put in here, anything you use is going to be secure, not something that they are using, and then you're good. The next thing I want to show you is, let's see. Okay, yeah, I'll give you a preview of this. I've got it on the slide later, but this is actually one of the most simple game-changing things that we've done. And it's actually interesting. If you haven't tried this before, let me blow up if you can see that a little further. What I want to focus on is this right here. AI by default is very linear in its thinking. It follows a chain of thought process, right? And that's not actually how humans think. We don't just purely think step by step. We actually think about it more atomic thinking, right? We create different atoms, different thought processes. You go out over here, you go out over there, and then you synthesize all those different ideas and thoughts into something. And so that's what this aims to do, right? And so it's going to decompose the problem into these different reasoning units. It's going to think about how things are interrelated and correct, and then it's going to synthesize the final answer. This is going to give you like a million times better. And actually, let me just drop the link to this so you've got it. It's in the slides here. Just pop that into your instructions, and you can use this actually on any model. So Gemini, you can create a system instruction, but we use this for everything, and it's crazy to see the A and B difference between the two. This is like the simplest thing you can do to just make your outputs like 10 times better. If you go to this slide here, you can copy and paste that. I got a little ahead of myself there, but it's because I'm so excited because it's awesome what this does to your outputs. So that is atomic thinking. You want to just turn that mode on. And you can paste that into any tool. Like I said, it's not just specific to Claude. Okay, where are we going here? So the next thing I just want to do is show you an example like project. We're going to get some of these set up. So let me just zoom out to give you the full picture here. So this is a project, and it's the best way of describing and holding on to an agent's workflow. So Claude is the overall agent that's running things. But when you create a new project in Claude, you can give it files that are specific to just this workflow or project, not something that you want for all skills to have. And then you can give instructions for a very simple workflow. So let me just blow that up. So here's an example of a workflow that I showed earlier, the product R&D workflow. If you see, it's just simple instructions. It's almost if I was a CEO and I was delegating to someone, this is the level of detail. Maybe even a little bit more detailed than a CEO, but pick the level that you want to be at. And you simply say what you want. You say, use this skill with that, create this, create that. I'm just asking for certain deliverables, and I'm saying, use what you already know how to do. Use your writing skill, use your research skill. Just telling it the capabilities it's already aware of. Okay, so that would be the simplest way to create a workflow. The crazy thing is, then if I used this earlier, I have a founder friend who has a new startup idea. And so I ran this and it's a real estate platform. And so I basically just said, help me with this. Here's what it did. It ran through that workflow that I just showed you in the instructions, and it created all the research. Here, I'll go down to the bottom. It created all the market research. It created the product roadmap based on that research of what people were saying their pain points are and were willing to pay. Created the user experience stories, which then now are ready to develop by a team of developers. And it created the technical architecture for that. Now, the cool thing is we could give this to our development team, or we just give it to Claude agents. And if you look at this, like here is, just to give you a sense, you can see here, it's given us all the different stories that we need. So here's a story. As an agent managing transactions, I want to upload, organize, and share documents. So it created all these stories. This is what you'd give a developer to build a piece of software. You just give this to Claude and it'll actually build it for you. So we're able to go from idea to validated market research I wish they had timestamps on here. I think it maybe took about 15 minutes to do all this. Actually, it was probably even faster than that. So you think about how many months that would traditionally take, that cycle of research, develop, test, get feedback, that would typically take a very long time. This is something that we can do in a matter of minutes. Obviously, the work to go out and get customers, that's not something AI can help with, but this is a large part of the work and actually where most people get caught up and where the most problems come up. So that's an example of a workflow in Claude with a set of skills. Do you guys want to do one? Do you want to set one up and try to brainstorm one? We've got some time left. And so what I'd like to do, if you're up for it, is let's share like what workflows are you wanting to automate? Or are people just come here to come up with ideas and get inspiration? Or is there a workflow that we could actually go about building today? Does anybody have anything they want to share? Some mission they want to accomplish with AI? Christopher?
I'll take it. Yeah.
Go for it, man. Yeah, we got time to do it.
Yeah, I use Go High Level as a CRM,
Yep.
and and then I have a software called Dubsado for building invoices for customers. And I'd like to find a way to automate when it gets to a certain point in Go High Level to send it into proposal into
Mhm.
Dubsado.
How do you spell Dipsado? How is that spelled?
It's Dubsado.
Oh, I've heard of Dubsado. Yeah, okay. Here we go. Okay, so what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna do a quick little research first, is I'm gonna say go high level MCP server, which I think I'd already seen that.
Because I was just gonna do
Yeah.
it, and I was gonna do N8N is what I was planning on building.
That's what I think most people are used to because again, NAN has raised a ton of money to spend on marketing to sell an inferior solution. And so everybody knows about the inferior solution because all their money goes to marketing. That's like the irony of awareness. And so let's talk about how to do this. This is cool because MCP High Level already has an MCP server. So all this is a way to integrate with their API. That's all that means is can I make Claude integrate with High Level? So what we're going to do now is if this is the main one that you're going to want to do, this is actually fairly simple.
So I'm
You're going to
used to
essentially
getting an API key and then putting the the MCP, is that kind of a similar?
Yeah, you basically add the API key right here.
Okay.
So essentially you configure this, and this is a little bit technical, but I promise once it's set it and forget it. If you can get this, and this is like a big part of why our program exists, is we help people set this stuff up every week and get you unblocked on things. Like Brett's in our program. But if anybody is intimidated by this, we will help you set this up, no problem. And then once it's set up, you can use it in your skills. And so you basically want to configure this in Claude, and then you'd create a skill that would interact with the high level MCP server. So you'd say maybe create a skill that, let me just go over here. Let's see here. You might create a skill that pulls whatever relevant data that you want to see out of Go High Level, right? And then let's see, what was Dubsado? Let's see if MCP server for Dubsado. Nice. Yeah, it looks like they do. Zapier has one. Yeah, it's possible. So it looks like they built one themselves. And so the cool thing is like we actually will build MCP servers if they don't exist with Claude. So this isn't like a hurdle, but it's not quite as simple as the Go High Level piece. But what you could do is decide what output would you want to put into Dubsado, and in the meantime, connect Go High Level, create a skill that pulls all the data from Go High Level, does the analysis that you want, and then creates the output that's formatted for Dubsado. You would just have to manually copy and paste it in. But
Still way better
if you
than
did
what
have
I'm
the
doing now.
MCP server, sorry, what was that, Christopher?
That's better than what I'm doing now.
There you go. It's all about
Yeah.
incremental improvement, right?
Yeah.
And in fact, I don't like big bang stuff where you have to throw away what you're doing or completely go all in on something else. So I would say look into this and yeah, like you said, it'll be better than what you're currently doing. So I think you can always keep extending the skills. You might have another skill that is your like contract winner, strategy winner skill, and it gets used in between, right? It takes the data from Go High Level and then does something that makes it insightful to go into the proposal for Dubsado or whatever. Just spitballing a potential
Yeah. Cool.
thing.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great example. Does anyone else have any other use cases or workflows that maybe you wanted to talk through and go through about how to build? All right, I'll take a drink here. Okay, let's keep going then. In the workbook, we're not going to do this today, but in the workbook, we do have our strategy builder. This is just a simple framework to help you prioritize. Let's say you have 10 ideas. What's going to be the one that's best to start with? So here's a quick little exercise. I would actually like to move on to setting this up though. And I would encourage you, if you're not already following along, let's do this. Let's get it set up. Go to Claude.ai, sign up for the $20 a month subscription, and turn off the settings for privacy. Make sure you're in privacy mode. And then make sure that the capabilities are turned on like we looked at over here with the skills. Is anyone already using Claude, or is this new for everyone? Bob, you're using it. Cool. All right. Christopher, cool. So if you've already got it, so then the suggestion I would make next is make sure you do that chain of thought instruction that we just did, changing it from chain of thought to atomic thought. This is one of my favorite kind of low-hanging fruits to pick. So again, to do that, just to recap real quick, go to General, and it's under Personal Preferences. And obviously, you can have fun with this. If there's more personal preferences you have, like this is just to show you what you can do here as one example. You can have really robust custom instructions in here. So that's where that goes. And then install a skill. And actually, Claude comes with a few skills already, but I just wanted to show you like the format of a skill. It's just text. The skill has to be in a file called skill.md. This is one caveat and requirement. And that goes in the folder of whatever the skill is called. And so if we actually look at, let's see here. Let's look at some of our skills. This one is probably our most used skill, the anti-AI style skill. And so I just want to show you, I'll do the raw view so you can see how simple it is. All you have to do is dash dash, name, colon, give it a name, description, give it a description, and then dash dash dash. That is the only technical requirement you must do aside from calling it skill.md. And then you can put whatever you want down here. And so this is actually, this used to be a chat custom GPT that we use to like cleanse or final edit anything those AI outputs. So it's like, don't use emojis, don't make it sound like AI essentially, but we have a lot of specific rules in there. And this skill gets used on everything. Like after content, other skills reference it to get a final pass output. And so this is an example of just one type of skill that you could create if you wanted. And we actually, if you haven't already got the library, that is here, and I'll put the link in there. There's the anti-AI style skill. It's a tongue twister. That's in there. And then the other one that I want to show you that's awesome for research is the market researcher. Here we go. And this is the one that we use for our product R&D. This is a bit more of a sophisticated prompt or skill, but this will go out and research, yeah, at least 100 sources for market research. It's really impressive. I've yet to see anyone use this and not be blown away. So I would, if you haven't already used that, that's also in here. If you click the link, it's the market researcher. So those are just 3 skills to get you started. And then Anthropic also has several that it comes with. And again, to install those, you just download the zip and then add it here in the skills section. You can see
Todd,
we've got,
if you were to write your own skill, would you put it on a text file and call it Skill MD?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yep. And Claude can actually help you write skills too. There's a skill writer there, but essentially you just need a text file, skill.md. That's the key requirement with that. And then you give it a name, give it a description. Yeah, let's see. I think those were the main things. I just want to show you quickly, if you like this kind of thing and you actually want our help to go further on this and even have our help with building out the workflows themselves, I just want to tell you about our program. It's called the AI Agent Workflows Program, and we use our AI Skills Operating System as the main methodology for this. And so we give you our whole library of skills. We're always adding to that and making it better. So that's a growing library. You get the whole framework, all the templates and guides to get all this set up. And then this is really key, the weekly Zoom calls where we get together and build these out every single week with everyone else that's in the program. Today, this is just like a sample. And if you're in our program, we help you week over week, both in group or in private settings. We've got a community where everyone's sharing things, what they're working on, and helping each other as well, and sharing inspiration, giving feedback. And we have all this wrapped up in a program that is a one-time investment of 2,500. That is the goal is to build out as many workflows as we can over 10 weeks with you on that. And then you're going to have the skills to be able to do that going forward for yourself, for your clients, for your team. And then if you want ongoing support, we also have a $100 a month subscription for ongoing mentorship and help and implementation. So that's a little bit about our program. But beyond joining us, if you feel like that might be a good fit for you, what you want to do next is finish the steps that we did earlier here. So finish steps 1 through 3, and then start codifying your expertise as agent skills, right? That then you can either use just old school by copy pasting into whatever tool, or if you want to start connecting with agents and workflows and Claude, that's really where the cool stuff and magic starts to happen. And then just start building out your workflow. So, like in your case, Christopher, I just continued down that path. And then really from there, it's just starting to think about what else you can do with it, right? There's so much potential when you start to think in terms of what data do you need? What expertise do you need? What kind of sources? And then how do you measure what good looks like? And one of the things in our program is called the skill scorecard. And that's a way of really measuring and iterating over time. Once you've got these skills dialed in, how do you continue to make them better and make sure that they're on track, especially as you start to have more of them running and you have other people using them, making sure they're working right is a key problem to solve. So with that said, Christopher, do you have
When does your next one start?
we're actually onboarding every single week now, given
Oh,
how
so you
much
can start
demands.
any.
So yeah, basically Monday is the best day to get onboarded, but you don't have to necessarily wait till then. We give you access to everything, but every Wednesday is when we do our live sessions. And so we don't have it tomorrow. So that's one of the reasons why Brett is here, because he's actually in our program, but he wanted some extra time today. We typically do it Wednesdays at 11, and then you get one-to-one help asynchronously over email or in our community. And then if you ever really get stuck, I hop on with you and get you unblocked. And so I've done that a couple times with Brett and some of the others.
And then do you use the team program for your business? Is that what you use?
Yeah, Claude
Yeah.
Team, that plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Because then the cool thing is you can have organizational level skills and you can share them across people, just like you can do shared GPTs.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we do that a lot.
So you don't even use chat anymore. That's what I'm thinking of, just moving everything over to there and my team over to there because yeah, you don't use it.
No, we don't. We've totally given up. It was one of the best feelings to cancel it because it was like $120 a month or something. And I was like, we don't even need this anymore. No, we are all in on Claude. It's $20 a month. It's really hard to overstate how good it is. Yeah. For now, and that's the thing is like these skills are evergreen. This framework will work with whatever is best. Claude is good now, but it may not always be. So I just always want to caveat that. Cool. Any other questions? We've got a little bit of time left if anybody else wanted to ask anything or anything like that. But otherwise, I think I shared the links already. You should
Hi,
have
Todd.
what you need to go forward. Yeah.
Hey, Todd. My name is Chen.
Hey,
Sorry for
Chen.
interruption. I have a question, and I think
Sure.
that's very good presentation, and I'm really interested in your 2500, the program, 10 weeks. It sounds like
Uh-huh.
pretty amazing. I just want to have a question regarding what's the technical requirement in terms of the software engineer required in order to be productive for this 2500 investment, because I just want most use of my time and also the resource. So tell me about what kind of the basic requirement for the software development skills I need
Well,
in order to, yeah.
I would say we have a mix of skills in our program. The majority of people are actually not technical at all. They have no software engineering skills. And so that's the cool thing is you don't actually need that at all. But if you choose to, we have a whole other set of skills that are specific for technically minded folks. And you actually use those with Claude Code, which is an even better version of the agent. So like Claude Desktop and Claude Web, like we just looked at today, and Claude Mobile are great for non-technical people. And that's actually the only software you need aside from a text editor. And then if you're technical, we go deeper with Claude Code specifically, which again runs the same skills and you'll have more code related skills, but it allows you to maintain some of the standards, like going beyond what a linter, a code linter would do or something along those lines. And you essentially can have all those best practices packaged up as your own skills if you're a developer. So the only software you need is Claude, and you just have to decide where do you want to access it. Does that answer your question, Chen? Did I understand
Yeah,
that?
yeah. Another thing I want to just highlight, I start really like this today's like generative AI because I haven't used the cloud yet. I use the Codex, right? And by combination with
Yeah.
ChatGPT, essentially, I put my natural language about what kind of the workflow I want to build in the
Yeah.
ChatGPT, and then it will synthesize and translate it into the code. And then I went to the Codex and put the code over there, and then it's working. So that's where I got interested. So
Okay,
that's
so
what
you're
I
gonna
have.
love Claude Code then if you've been doing that workflow, because I test Codex about every week just to make sure that it hasn't gotten better. Claude
Mhm.
Code is still a lot better than Codex, so you won't need to do the back and forth between ChatGPT and Codex. Claude
Mhm.
Code will be able to do all of that, and I find that especially with Opus 4.5, it's one-shotting really difficult engineering problems, fixing really gnarly bugs that other models and previous versions struggled with. And yeah, I keep a pulse on Codex just to make sure that it's still
Mhm.
not best in class. But right now, for the last several weeks or months, really, Claude Code is still top. And
Okay. Okay.
definitely try it if you have it. And if you want to go deeper on that with us, like we spend a lot of time on that in the program too.
Sure. Sure, I will. So essentially, you are seeing the convenience of the cloud, which is really the integrate this chat GPT part and the
Yep.
codex. Therefore, you can just write the questions or the descriptions in the cloud. It will translate into the code and then also seamlessly integrate into the execution part, which is
That's
correct.
exactly it. Yeah, we use Claude Code to like create the user stories for the development to be done. Then we use Claude Code to then execute and build
Okay.
same story. So it's like he's like writing it for himself. It's going to
Okay.
be formatted and understood well.
I think that definitely I will check out the cloud because this is a back and forth between the ChatGPT and the Codex. It make me a little bit uncomfortable, and yeah,
Yeah.
I will check out that. And the other question, meaning is, how do you compare this cloud in terms of the natural language understanding compared to the ChatGPT? You think that's is better or it's the same or
I
because
find it good. I would say it's exceptionally good at reasoning and research and writing.
okay,
I've not really had much trouble with it not understanding my intention. I will say I try to tend to be more verbose when I'm prompting. So I have not tried to be like, I try to give it as much info as I can, even if it's just stream of consciousness, me speaking, dictating into it. So that's the extent of the experience I've had with that. But I'd be curious if you give it a try, if you find it's any better or worse. But so far on all the other kind of elements that I've been testing. I would say it's not as good as a conversationalist as ChatGPT is. ChatGPT is sycophantic and it's kind of a yes person and it like tries to hype you up. And it's not, Claude is not like that as much, which actually I prefer. I don't want just like somebody that's just going to feed me nonsense. I want the facts
Cool.
and the results.
Okay.
So that's the one
Okay.
thing that I found is not that ChatGPT is better at, which is just like conversational. But I'm
Cool.
like, that's not really what I care about personally.
Okay. Okay. So
Yeah.
then my last question regarding your 2500, this program. And so that one is essentially I can bring any workflow or the things I want to automate and bring over to you, and then you can help instruct me, right, to build
Exactly.
that agent instead of you're doing it for me, but
Right.
you
We
can
call it
walk
done.
me through that process, right?
Yeah, we call it done with you,
Okay.
DWY. Instead of do it yourself, we're going to do it with you. And we help you in those meetings. And then also in between, if you ever get stuck, we help you asynchronously. And then if you ever truly were stumped, I'll get on Zoom with you just one on one and get you unstuck there. But so far, no one's ever gotten to that point, really. So it's like, it's pretty cool what we can build together in the
Mm-hmm.
sessions. And then we've got a community where it all comes together and people share in there as well.
Okay. Okay. Will we sign some CDA or NDA kind of things? Because if I touch on any company secret information, confidential information, then perhaps it's better covered under some NDA, right? Because I don't want that got
Yeah, personally, I am happy to sign one. We can't ask that everyone in the group sign one, but usually what people do is just they don't say the most sensitive things on the calls. But if you ever need my help, I'm happy to sign anything to make you feel safe with that. Yeah, that's not a problem.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. That's all my
Yeah,
question.
thank you, Chen.
Very
I
good.
appreciate the questions and thanks for joining us today. I'll follow up after this and
Sure.
see if you have any other questions. And same with everyone else. I'll reach out with the recording. And if anybody else wants to know anything in the meantime or has other questions, let me know. But thank you for the time today. And I hope you got something out of this. Give it a try and let me know how it works.
All right. Thanks, Todd.
Yeah, thank you. Bye all. Happy holidays.